The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday, June 6th. And we had a little bit of time off on Monday and Tuesday because a lot of our crew was working over the weekend. Suzanne and Emily went off to Surfers Healing to videotape for that. And I didn't get to go because it was my son's birthday party, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the video that they shot there. And that's an incredible program. For those of you around the country here in the United States who have participated in that, you know how exciting that is for our kids. My son participated when he was 5. He got to go on a surfboard and be taken out into the ocean, and it was a very amazing thing. He has been very explicit about the fact that he does not desire to go back, but that does not change the fact that he absolutely loved it in the moment that he did it and got off and was speaking in complete sentences. "Mommy, the shark not get me." It's really... and grinning ear to ear, shivering because he was cold, but an amazing, amazing thing to be able to do with your children. So we hope that you'll check Surfers Healing out. And then, of course, on Sunday, I mentioned this yesterday when Nancy Alspaugh Jackson was here, we went to the Taka family picnic. Really amazing event. We're going to be talking more about that, and we shot some video there that we'll share probably next week. So we were off on Monday and Tuesday, but we were here yesterday with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet, and an amazing show. If you missed it, I hope that you'll take a look at it on YouTube. And then we had Nancy Alspaugh Jackson with us. But we're here, we're back, and I want to remind everybody that this entire show is meant to be completely interactive, that our hope here is that we can shed some light on autism from a 360-degree perspective and give you an opportunity to talk about the things that are important to you. However you're dealing with autism in your life, whether you yourself have autism or you're working with a child who's on the autism spectrum, we want to be a resource for you to get hooked up with information. So continue to let us know what the topics are that you're interested in and to comment on what we're doing here, because we do appreciate your input. Even when you think it might be potentially negative, it isn't. Because if our entire purpose for being here is to help you, then if you say, hey, this isn't helpful, that's helpful to us, right? We don't take it personally at all. So Emily's going to cycle through some of the different ways that you can get a hold of us here, that you can reach us here to let us know the kinds of things that you want to know, and also some of the different ways that you can watch us, because there are a myriad of ways that you can see the show. But I'm going to remind you that there's only one way to watch us live right now, and that's at www.autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a white box, there's a desktop, right, that looks like my desk, only cleaner. And there's a white box there that is active now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm checking to make sure, yes, I'm active right now. It says live. And when you go there, you can type whatever you want, hit enter, and it shows up magically on my screen. Now, I get to read it before I post it for everybody else, so if you give us personal information, I can edit it out and not post it. And I will edit that out, because I don't want to be sharing your business, right? But if you want us to get back to you and you want to give us your email, you can. I won't give it out to the world, or your phone number, whatever it is that you want to give. But we do love it when you guys interact with us. We really, I genuinely do. Now, the show is only live 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, but it plays 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the live site. So if you're watching us in a pre-recorded version of us, then your question will post on my forum here, and then I'll get a chance to look at it the next time we're here doing a live show. I do want to give a couple of program notes that next week we're doing 4 live shows, and then we're not going to be here for at least a week and a half. So we're taking that summer vacation, that hiatus. I need to spend some time with my boy, and I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be in the Iowa area. So any of you who are in the Midwest, if you're around that area, let me know. Perhaps we could run into each other. And then I'm going to be traveling back via car from Iowa back to Los Angeles, which should be very interesting with my son. We're doing a road trip. I'm really looking forward to it because, you know, I always loved to road trip when I was a kid. My family, we never flew anywhere. We drove. And I think that's an exciting thing to do with a family, but I will be honest that it has seemed too overwhelming in previous years with my son. And this year, he and I are both excited, and I think he is ready. He just turned 10 yesterday, and he is doing so well. I think that and unfortunately his dad's not going to be able to come with us, so it's me and my son. It's either going to be horrible or something to remember. I guess either way it's going to be something to remember, right? In any case, so I'm going to be gone for at least a week and a half, possibly 2 weeks. So we will be playing shows that we have previously aired, and there might be some new content that has an opportunity to play during that time. But we'll still take your questions during that time. I also want to remind you here at the top of the show that I am not an expert in autism. Oh, no. But I have a deep interest, and the reason why I'm here is because my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, and what I knew about autism in that moment couldn't have filled a thimble. I would be honest with you and tell you that what I know about autism now isn't a thimble in terms of what there is to know about autism, but I'm learning. Like all of you, every day is another opportunity to learn more, and I have a deep curiosity and a passion for helping our kids because I've seen how much help was available for my child. I am going to talk a little bit about what I saw at the Taka Family Picnic a little bit later on in the show, and really how amazing, how much hope I have for the future based on a lot of the things that I saw there. So, all of that having been said, we like to start every morning with something we call the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it. The reason why we do this is because the jargon is so intensive. And as you start out on this journey, sometimes the things that you have to deal with that are pressing are not the jargon. You're trying to figure out what therapy you're going to do with your child, how you're going to get delivered to your house, how you're going to get that diagnosis so that you can, and most importantly, you know, once you figure out the therapy that you're going to do and who you're going to do it with, you got to figure out how you're going to pay for it and how you're going to keep a roof over your head while you're doing it, right? So you don't have time to do the jargon in that moment in time. And to sit down and read 17 books about autism to figure out all the jargon and what it means within the context of your individual kid, oh, phooey, right? So much better to do exactly what we do with our kids, which is take it on one little bit at a time. See if we can't see how it applies to our individual children. I feel very passionately about that because over the years, as I've gotten to understand more of the jargon, it's gotten easier. It's gotten easier to talk with experts. It's gotten easier to get help, and it's gotten easier to get through it. You don't have that frustration. So it takes time. But all things, where are we going? Where else do we have to be, right? We're with our kids, but we could do a little bit of this today. All right, so our term for today is imaginary play. Now, this is a really important aspect of our kids growing and learning and developing. And I know many of you have written in and said, my child doesn't engage in imaginary play, or my child doesn't demonstrate imagination or creativity, and it's of concern to you. But we can strengthen these things. So let's define, first of all, what imaginary play play is. Our actual definition is using imagination to create objects, locations, scenarios, and situations where they don't already exist for the purpose of play. So we're really, I have had, we may actually have her visit at the end of the show today. I've had my 5-year-old grandniece visiting us while we went to Disneyland the other day. And she is the soul of imagination. It's very interesting to watch her and interact with her as opposed to my child at the age of 5. And my child very quickly with these lessons became very imaginative, but it's still a little bit interesting, right? And so anything can become something for my niece at the drop of a hat, click of a finger, and she's got something going on. I was mentioning to her last night while we were at dinner that when her mom was a little itty bitty girl, I used to sit with my 2 nieces and my nephew, and while we were waiting for the food to come, because that's exactly what was happening last night, the kids were getting restless. And I mentioned that what I used to do, what I did one time with the kids, because it just took forever, this one restaurant we were at, I started pulling out napkins and they'd given us crayons, and we started making a deck of cards so that we could play cards. Now, they were very little at that point, and so we were just putting hearts and diamonds and spades and clubs on them, and we were pretending to play cards, right? Well, I mentioned this to my niece yesterday, and boy, she had the napkins out, and we were making the cards, and, but it was more than that. She was always, the whole weekend long, it was, let's make, pretend that we're in a castle, or we're in a hurricane, or whatever it was. She was making something out of nothing, and her mind kept doing it over and over and over again. And there was my son, and because he's had this kind of teaching, he understood what she was doing, and she would say, now we're in a hurricane, and he would say, okay. He wouldn't, I was standing there going, well, wait a second, what just happened to the village that we were in, right? And the important thing is that, first of all, that our kids can play with other kids and connect with other kids in an imaginary way. But then if we can get them to the point where they create it, then so much the better. So our actual definition, using imagination to create objects, locations, scenarios, and situations where they do not already exist for the purpose of play. And our working definition is making it up, when kids make it up. I remember when we saw for the first time that our son was really getting it. He was 4 years old, and he was going to preschool. It was called Fun for Fours, excuse me. And there was a play kitchen, right? And we've talked before about functional pretend play. And the kids would all go in the morning, and they would have an array of stuff that they could play. But there was a big play kitchen house thing that almost the entire class could get in there. And they would find different tasks to do, all functional pretend play. And there were the little plastic clippies that you can stick together that make it look like a chain. You can clip them together, and it looks like a big long chain. And my son started sticking them together, and there was a little entrance to the house. He started sticking them together, and he said to his little friend Jalen, he said, come on, let's decorate the house. These are Christmas lights. So this thing that was previously a chain, he endowed it with other attributes, which I think we're going to talk about tomorrow, which is symbolic play, right? So it symbolized something else. Brilliant leap of imagination, right? And so they decorated the house and did all that. Then they sat and had a picnic with the functional pretend play. And then they got into a thing where they pretended that they were in a spaceship, right? So they went from symbolic play to functional pretend play to imaginary play. And then later on, they went into the house and they put on costumes, and they pretended, my son pretended he was a fireman. And I think the other little boy pretended that, he was a dog caught in a tree. I don't know. But then we get into sociodramatic play where they're taking on characters. Really exciting when we see our kids, A, start to do this, and B, start to connect with other children, because for a long time we'll see kids who play side by side, and then they start to play together. For our kids on the autism spectrum, first we have to get them to play by themselves, right? Then play side by side, then interact together. But imaginary play is something that can be taught. Teaching our kids how to make it up, it absolutely can be taught. All right. So we always have a question of the day. And our question today is, how does your child demonstrate imagination? And it's okay to write in and say, you know what, we don't yet. That's okay. Because you know what? Other parents need to hear that too. But I also want you to see, when you all respond on Facebook or write into us, I want you to see that there are people whose children weren't imaginative and then they became imaginative. It's not because they outgrew autism. You know how I feel about that, right? If you watch the show, oh yeah, outgrow it. But because they worked towards it and they gained important skills so that they were able to play and use imagination. It isn't hard, right? But it is something that takes planning and massaging. You know, it is that thing where you got to keep the pizza dough. You know, you can't keep stretching it out. And it doesn't happen usually all on its own. You got to have a plan to be able to teach this. But tell us how, if your child is now demonstrating imagination, please tell us what kinds of things. Jem at this point demonstrates huge imagination. He got a creativity award. I don't know whether it was last year or the year before, because if you ask him to write a story, I mean, he'll come up with outlandish stuff. And he really wants to design his own video game. So he has quite an active imagination, which is thrilling to me, thrilling and important to me. Okay, we always have a topic of the week, and our topic this entire week, what's left of it, we're talking about all-important play skills. Here we are. For some of you, you're starting the summer. You started the summer last week. Some of you are starting today, and some of you are starting next week. But play is an important skill to have at any time. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't know whether it was this week or last week that Dr. Graham Pichet was talking about how men and women play differently. And that if you think about it, the way that grown men still participate in play and that grown women, it's a little bit different. That we tend to, our play becomes much more domestic. Not for everyone, right? We hate to generalize. But I found that really interesting, and especially in light of the fact that there was a recent study talking about why is the prevalence for boys so much higher with autism than it is for girls. And of course, they know that there is a genetic component to it, that there is something about in the genetics of a girl that there is extra protection against autism, but that they also feel now that there is a not sociodramatic, but a play portion that has to do with social skills. That girls play early play skills tend to be those things of, okay, here's your baby doll, take care of your baby doll, which there is a component of social interaction with that. Whereas boys are given toys that, you know, vroom and do things where there isn't a social component to it. So I find it really interesting that if we give boys play skills, that they tend to do they're a little bit more specific with them throughout their life, because they want to go and play baseball, or they want to watch baseball, or you know what I mean? You know, that they interact with each other and it becomes a social skill later on. But those early play skills are very separate. So this is all very interesting to me. But either way you look at it, it's important that play gives our children a canvas in which to try things out, to see how they work, and make it an opportunity to learn. So really important, and especially in the summer, we hopefully get a little bit more time to hit these hard. It is going to help our children with social skills. I've seen that with my own son. So some of the different things that we're having on today, it's a very exciting day. We're going to have some great stuff, good stuff and great stuff with Ashley Colas. She's going to be joining us a little bit later in the program today. We have our very special guest, Eddie Taduri, who's going to be with us, an amazing gentleman. You know, Nancy Alsbaugh-Jackson talks about your disability can become your opportunity, and depending on how you look at things that happen in your life, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like the heroes that I look up to are people that didn't have it easy, that at some point faced some sort of adversity and not only overcame that, but ended up doing something because of it that is brilliant. And that is certainly the case with this gentleman. So excited to have him here on the show and talking about the program that he instituted after he became a paraplegic. So just amazing and inspirational. And then we are going to have a play tip a little bit later on in the show. So all of this and more. Emily, are we going to show, first of all, the video of TRAP, Eddie's program, before we do anything else? All right, let's do that, because I want folks at home to see this gentleman, because first you'll see the video and then we're going to have a chance to talk with Eddie. So take a look. This is the TRAP program that Eddie started.
From the beach here, I was sent to the hospital where they did an emergency operation, and then sent to the rehab in Santa Barbara. One of the first things I thought, and I woke up from the accident totally paralyzed from the neck down. I said, God, what will I do? I may never play again. And so from the side of my bed, I began tapping on the side of the bed. I said, yeah, I still got it, you know. I'm only a hand, but I have some rhythm. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, they got me up into a wheelchair. And I went to my 1:30 coordination group in the hospital where, at this point, I had told all the people in the business that I was hurt and I needed drums. So we passed out instruments to people, and people had traumatic brain injury, people had stroke, paralysis, anything that would land them in our Santa Barbara rehab. They were there. And I didn't know what to do, actually, you know, so I brought in a boombox and I played James Brown tunes and we played along to, you know, it was funny watching 70-year-old people playing along to get on a Good Foot by James Brown, you know, but we were laughing, having fun. All the various disciplines in the hospital thought, this is pretty cool. You know, if we're working on memory, focus, attention, if we're working on upper body, if we're working on balance, any of these things that were rehab goals, they found some way to integrate the drums. This is the basis or the idea of the Rhythmic Arts Project, was then to integrate the drums into either existing modalities, whether we're approaching rehab goals, we worked in Alzheimer's, we worked in traumatic brain injury. We worked in all these different fields in the beginning to figure out where we were going to go with it.
About a year after his accident, he was presenting at a conference, and a colleague of mine saw him and asked him to come and visit our program and see if there might be something that he could do with our kids.
There I met a developmental therapist who asked me, have you ever worked with children with developmental disabilities? And I said, well, no. She said, would you mind? You know, and I said, not at all. And I threw a couple of drums in the car and I drove to Pasadena. And here I met Seiko Nimi, who is still today my partner and my inspiration in this field. And I met a group of children 5 to 12 and another group 12 to 18. The group from 5 to 12 were the first group I worked with. And they had an egg shaker, and she said, they were sitting in a kind of a semicircle. They said, everyone put the egg shaker on the ground, put your hands in your lap. Bend over, pick the egg shaker up, shake it over your head, put it back on the ground, put your hands in your lap. Pick the egg shaker up, touch your elbow with the egg. And I said, what are they doing? You know, these were prepositional concepts that were foreign to children with developmental disabilities. So, in essence, this was the first exercise in the Rhythmic Arts Project.
Since that time, I've seen so much progress that many of the students who have been in our program make. Dion here is just one of the students, and his self-esteem has just grown. He's blossomed. The first time Eddie invited Dion to play this Avila Drum Day Festival, I believe that was 1999. He got up on stage at Avila Drum Day Festival, and he didn't get off stage for 6 hours. He didn't want to eat. He didn't want to use the restroom. He was fine, and I kept going, You got to get off. Come on. And he was just having a great time up there. Going back to what this program does is it gives them a voice.
It's really nothing to do with drums or drumming. It had to do with addressing basic life skills, integrating percussion items into this effort. So from there, we started using, we entered the drum. What will we do with the drums? Well, we'll learn how to count. We'll learn how to spell. We'll learn, to make a long story short, it's a perceptual motor match. If I could show you this. If we use a quarter note as the basis of the learning curve, quarter note is worth 1 beat. How many beats? 4 beats. Play 4 beats for me. So we're starting very simple in the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Using that quarter note, using this as a visual perceptual motor match. This, because we're hitting the drum, it's tactile. And because we can hear it, it's auditory. So we have 3 perceptual motor matches that are reinforcing the learning curve, which is what? Learning how to count. Learning how to identify a really abstract concept to most people, basic musical notation. Actually, it's enticing. It entices folks with developmental disabilities or neurotypical folks as well to learn. Now take the same quarter note, and then the next exercise, begin laterality, learning laterality, which is, now the quarter note becomes right, left, and then right, left, right, left, linear concepts in the beginning. So now we take that same concept with the quarter note, and we add colors. Now we have our basic black, green, blue, and red. And we make the charts. So we have 4 drums now, 4 color swatches. And eye-to-hand coordination comes into play, identifying our colors. Now I might ask that child, touch the red drum with your left hand and the black drum with your right hand, so we're crossing the midline. This is another very important developmental exercise for folks with developmental disabilities or neurotypical. There are times that when I've learned new exercises, a lot of new things come from my students. There's several new innovations. We're counting by 5, learning how to tell time, touch point counting, identifying nickels and dimes and quarters so we can make change. Simplicity is really the key to success. In our call and response, I remember Seiko Nimi, my teacher, who said, Eddie, we need to come up with something very simple in call and response. The only thing I could think of, which I thought was too simple, was hey, 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 ho, 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 hey, hey, ho, ho, hey, hey, let's go, and everybody dances, right? So we're learning to build confidence. Someone is the leader, and there's a simple call and response. Hey, hey, ho, ho, let's go. That simple call and response has become one of the most popular exercises worldwide. And I've seen 3 children on my own speak their first words ever in this call and response. And I've heard from other facilitators elsewhere in the country that the same thing has happened. The concept of the Rhythmic Arts Project is to give people with intellectual challenges the ability to succeed in the typical world. It's really exciting to me that the Rhythmic Arts Project is being so widely accepted in our own community now. United Cerebral Palsy / Work Inc. has really embraced this program, both in Santa Barbara and in Santa Maria. We're in 4 different schools, special education classes. So what's exciting about that to me is that these teachers, I don't have to go in and try to explain to them what an educational modality this is. They just look at it and go, oh my God, I'm approaching this, I can use that and what about this? And they see and they get it. A light goes on and they start utilizing this as part of their curriculum. Now I wrote a curriculum, some of them will use it, some of them won't. And what's great about that is that they're taking these ideas and making the ideas their own. Inclusion is the aim for all of us working in this population. Our folks want exactly the same things as we do. They want to be recognized, they want to be loved, they want to be appreciated for the things they accomplish. And they want to be part of the community. They want to be included as part of the community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So you just saw that amazing video, and joining us via Skype right now is Eddie Tuduri. Did I say it right, Eddie?
Tuduri, yeah.
Okay, great. There you are.
Get an A on your paper.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We're so thrilled to have you here. And I had mentioned to our viewers earlier that you're an inspirational guy. And I find it really heroic when people have things happen in their life and not only find a way to overcome, but make something extra wonderful out of it. So you don't really go into it in the video. Tell us a little bit about your background and what happened in your life.
Well, long story short, I'm a musician. I played drums for a living my whole life. And one day, I had played on Friday night. Saturday, I had another gig, and I was right before the gig. I live at the beach here in Santa Barbara. And I went out like any other day surfing, body surfing. And I hit a seemingly angry wave that 20 yards out that just snapped my neck. I was totally paralyzed from the neck down and sent to the ICU where I was for about a week, and then the rehab here in Santa Barbara, where I spent 6 weeks coming back from being totally paralyzed. I mean, it's quite a long story, so we'll skip to the 6. I walked out. They told me I wouldn't walk and I wouldn't have any normal bodily functions, but
But you walked out.
I walked out intact. I'm a little goofy physically. But I walk around pretty good, and I figured out how to do most things again. The program, the Rhythmic Arts Project program, was born in the rehab.
Yeah.
I worked closely with the director of recreational therapy. Her name is Libby Whaley. Libby and I started developing the program at first to address rehab goals: memory, focus, attention, balance, those sort of things. All the disciplines, the various disciplines in the hospital found a use for the way we were using the drums. It's not a drum program. We don't teach beats or any sort of drum circle activities. We don't do that. We use the drums as a perceptual motor match, part of a visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech learning curve that you look at the drum as the tactile component of the lesson. So when you and I learned how to count to 4, we wrote 1, 2, 3, 4 on the blackboard. Our teacher did, and we copied 1, 2, 3, 4 on our yellow lined paper, most of us.
Yes.
That's how we learned how to make numbers and count to 4 initially. Here, our folks with intellectual differences sometimes, or most times, don't often grasp conventional scholastics, so we need a way to draw them in.
Yeah.
And I show them a drum. Drums are fun. Everybody. Yes. And I said, who likes rock and roll? Everybody likes rock and roll.
It's true.
It is. And so I tell them what a quarter note is. A quarter note is worth 1 beat. So then you get a drum, and I show you a chart. It has 4 quarter notes on it, and it's labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the drum. How many beats? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're learning how to count like we learn how to count in rock and roll.
Yeah.
It entices everybody. The drum makes it fun. But what we're actually doing is we're We have a visual perceptual motor match. We're looking at the chart, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We hit the drum, so that's the tactile component of the learning curve. We don't look at it as a drum, but that we're actually feeling the lesson. Then we hear it, so it's auditory, and we combine that with speech. It's called a redundancy of information that condones the learning, which is, in this case, counting to 4.
Yeah.
And then we take that to, we push the envelope to whatever extent, whatever the ability level in terms of counting.
It's really quite brilliant, Eddie, because you're giving something that's really reinforcing the drum. And as you were saying, the tactile, we know that, especially for kids on the autism spectrum, and by the way, you work with all kinds of people who have all different kinds of differences, not just autism, but you work with kids with autism. And by adding that sensory component to it, you have great success at teaching things, correct?
We really have. I think it's, with autism, and so much of our practice is autism. Although we work with everyone, but there's, half of the class has autism, it seems. Yeah. No matter where I go in the world, and we're in 6 countries now. So I think getting them involved, that we can, sort of command their attention, elongate that concentration. Some of the things we do that once we get through the first phase of the book, that one chart that has 4 notes on it becomes a bar, a whole line of music, so that they have to stay engaged. We have some very difficult exercises too, because as you know, many folks on the spectrum are really brilliant.
Yes.
When I first started working with children 15 years ago, I had a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old with autism. I showed them that I only had the first level of the book, and I showed them the book, and they went right through it. Notes and counting and accents and colors and shapes, and God, they looked at me 9 years old and said, is that all you got?
I love it.
And so I went back to my teacher, who is Seiko Nimi, who's a developmental therapist. And I said, Seiko, we really need to come up with some, more challenging exercises, because these kids are a lot smarter than me.
It's amazing. So now you have a full curriculum that you can work on with kids.
Now we have like 112 pages of exercises and literature and hardware packages and dice and playing cards and shapes galore with colors and sign language and sequencing and patterning and on and on and on.
Because you found that using the drum, you can teach so many different things. You can teach colors, you can teach math, you can teach consequences, and you can teach language and communicating.
And confidence and behavioral concepts and everything. But using the drum as the tactile component. If I show you a shape and it's an octagon, first of all, I'll ask you to identify the shape. What is it? It's an octagon. How many sides or angles in an octagon? Well, there's 8. So that's 8 beats. So the visual is the visual that I show you, the octagon. It's worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 beats. And then as it progresses, what color is that shape? And I might show you a blue octagon. So we add that. What is the shape? What is the color? The color is blue. What's the sign for blue? So we add sign language to the scenario. Then, so it's worth 8 beats. It's blue. It's an octagon, and this is the sign. And then it might be orange or brown or yellow, or black, or so whatever that is. And we're adding, and especially for kids with or adults with autism, they have to stay engaged to answer all these questions.
Yeah.
And to get through it.
I absolutely love it, Eddie. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. For folks who are watching, how can they participate? If they have a child in Southern California, I know that you've got classes that they can do. How can they participate if they're local?
Well, what we do is we have the trainer program. The next one's coming up in September for people who want to become facilitators, or for people who are special ed. We have a lot of special ed teachers We have people who work in facilities that serve this population. So we have a 3-day intensive training program. I personally only teach classes after they've been to the training, and I'll go and do a hands-on in a school, for instance. And then the teachers take over. They basically integrate this Rhythmic Arts Project curriculum into their own existing curriculum, because it works on the same goals that they're trying to accomplish, but by other than conventional means. So I don't really teach classes where people could come and participate. They would, there are schools and facilities in California
that feature this program.
Yeah, where they're right, exactly, where they have integrated the modality, so to speak.
Okay,
so,
and when people go to your website, do you have a list of the schools that have integrated the modality?
Well, not necessarily. It's,
okay.
If you go there, if you go to the website, it'll tell you. It's better if they go to the website than they call me or Tracy here at the office personally.
Okay. Great.
And we could try to hook them up in that way. Or we could tell them when the next training is, or we could tell them where they could, we're also always doing benefits, and we have one on July 13th in Ojai. We have another one on August 2nd in Carpinteria. We have a kind of a private affair on August 30th in Santa Barbara. So we're always moving.
Wonderful.
Next week I'm leaving Saturday for Memphis, where we, at the SERVS organization, they serve over 900 people with developmental disabilities.
Wow.
And we are training them to become trainers, so that people from elsewhere in Tennessee, Alabama, people will be able to come from all over and learn the trap.
Okay, great. So if somebody wants to bring you to train a large group of people, you're willing to do that. You're willing to travel to do that.
Yes.
And if somebody and if somebody wants to become versed in this, to be a trainer, there are trainings that are available.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Eddie, I think it's incredible. And the only way that they can get access to the curriculum is if they become a trainer.
They need to be certified, because it's too. We used to sell the books online before we had this incredible volume that we have now, and it wasn't. It didn't sit right with me that someone might just buy the book and then go out and call themselves a teacher, because we're much. We have a. You have to meet certain criteria. You have to have background checks. You have to have CPR training. You have to be certified by this office in order to participate as a facilitator or a teacher.
I appreciate that as a parent, because if people are going to participate in something, they want to know that they're getting the right quality. So I appreciate that you do that. And I got to tell you, I think you're a really inspirational guy, and I'm sorry that you went through what you went through, but the fact that you rose above all of it and found something that was not only beneficial to you, but beneficial to so many other people, I think is amazing.
I thank God for my broken neck every day. I mean, look at the folks like yourself that I get to hang out with now and to collaborate with, and having children and adults with intellectual differences in my life it's the best thing that could have happened.
Isn't it amazing? And we saw in the video that it's so inspirational, and I know that this has become a passion for you.
It truly is. It's more like a gift.
Yeah.
I pinch myself sometimes and wonder what I've done to deserve this. I work with a lot of. We're in preschools now, so I did 2 preschool. I worked with 2 teachers this past week, and the class is about 15 minutes. They have an attention span of a gnat. All of us at that age, and I just love it. We have a strong program in Quito, Ecuador, and they're adopting the program and writing the curriculum, using my curriculum to address neurotypical children from 0 to 5.
Absolutely. Well, I think so. You're international too. If they want you to go overseas to train, you're willing to do it.
I have done. We have we had very strong classes in the Middle East before this uprising.
Yeah.
I've been to Bulgaria. I've been to Damascus and Homs and Jordan, and we just trained a friend of mine in Australia. Now he's teaching the trap curriculum in Australia. We have Trap Canada, where I'll be going back to. I'll be in Toronto training in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it all leads back to the website. I want to make sure that we give the website again, which is traponline.com, and TRAP stands for The Rhythm Arts Project.
Traponline.org.
.org, excuse me, .org. Okay.
It'll get there either way, but
okay. All right. Well, Eddie, I thank you so much for everything that you do and for taking the time to be with us. And we're going to try to get up to your fundraiser on the 13th to check it out.
Oh, that'd be great.
In Ojai.
Thank you so much for what you do. And, it's a real privilege to be on your show. Thank you.
Well, it's a privilege for us to have you. You have a great weekend, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Really an amazing and inspirational man. And I have to say a special shout out thanks to our mutual friend, Rana Jones, who told me about Eddie and what he was doing. So thank you to Rana, a fabulous performer in her own right. We're going to take a break and come back with more after these messages. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, you're back at Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, and you're at the allergy-friendly cooking show. And we have kind of an interesting surprise. I've brought my sister. That's surprise number one.
Yeah. The fact that I came is surprise number two.
I know, right?
Hi, Jamie. Hi.
And we're doing one of my favorite recipes, an ode to Sue, a Taka super mom. She created a kid-friendly sushi recipe for her son, Zach. So, hi, Zach. Thanks for allowing us to borrow your lunch recipe because it's really awesome. So we can't wait to show it to you. First, what I'm going to do is we're going to cut up some of these things so we can get ready. I'm going to take an organic cucumber and just make some slices of this that we're going to use in a little bit to add some extra textures to the seaweed roll that we're going to do. And I'm just making long slices so we can place this in our sushi later on. And then I got, of course, a nitrate-free, gluten-free, fantastic sausage. Love this. So this is a barbecue chicken that we had last night. It was pretty awesome. Make sure that I have a little bit of everything here for the sushi roll. So now let's make the sauce. Use my gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free soy sauce. And of course, my most favorite thing in the world is crushed ginger. Love this stuff.
I thought that was garlic at first.
No, you can actually do
buy it that way.
this. Ginger is just such a blessing for digestion. So I just made this quick sauce, super easy. So here's my cooked rice. This rice is very, very sticky. I use this really great little water and apple cider vinegar combination just to keep my hands. That's what the sushi chefs do, is a little trick, which is like pretty.
Used for apple cider.
I know, and I love that stuff. So good for you. So all I'm doing is just keeping my fingers a little bit damp so the rice doesn't stick to my fingers. And we're just pushing this all through. If your kids don't like green, not a problem. You just flip it over. So that way we can hide the green stuff from our kids and it will be rice out as part of the recipe. So let's have a little fun. We're going to do my favorite, avocado. And if you're sending this to lunch with your kids, you may want to put a little extra of the lemon on there because it will get brown. And I even have sensory issues for the brown stuff. So there we go. There's our avocado. So the next thing I'm going to do is do a couple of the cucumbers. I know, it's so easy and it's so cute and we're going to eat healthy.
You're going to make one for me for lunch today.
Yes,
right?
you can have one for lunch. Now comes the fun stuff, the sausage.
So you could put anything in here.
Anything.
Jeez.
Anything. It's really just the simplest thing in the entire world. And then, so, you know, it's sushi kids can eat, and I wasn't joking about that. So I may squeeze a little more extra lemon on there. And now I'm going to take my little sausage, or sauce, excuse me. Just put a little bit on there so we're coating About a teaspoon. Doesn't it look good? You can get this at any cooking food store. So this is just the little sushi roller, which I think is fun. So I'm going to put this underneath, and I'm going to start to roll. So you got to watch how you go through and roll this. So the biggest thing is to try to get it compacted enough. So when all is said and done, we can hide the green stuff. So again, with cutting sushi, you want to make sure you're nice, really sharp. And we also want to get it a little wet, because that way it would make it easier for cutting. So I'm going to just cut off the ends. It's so funny. These are our taster bites, Jamie. You can tell me how these taste. Go ahead and try it.
Yum.
I know, right?
See?
And your body kind of goes, wait, I'm waiting for seafood. But you've got awesome sausage, chicken. You've got a full serving of vegetables. And is that good? Yeah. Yum? You're not lying? You're not lying? Okay, good.
I like more sauce.
You like more
We
sauce?
can even put wasabi in there if we like.
Yeah,
it.
if, I think the wasabi, the issue...
Oh, we're making it for kids, sorry.
Yeah, we are making it for kids. This is just a fun way to introduce more foods to your kids, and notice they're eating seaweed. We'd love to hear from you. If you have an idea or you want us to convert a recipe, let us know. Jamie, thanks for being my fabulous Flannel White. You can reach us at autismlive@gmail.com or Facebook, facebook.com/autismlive. Or we have thousands of recipes on Taka Now. So, go check out the Taka website and let's get cooking. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. I just love watching her make that sushi. I've been saying for the longest time that I'm going to make sushi for Jem, but I got to find one of those bamboo mats. In any case, also just a brief side note that we just found out that Esther Williams passed away. And I just want to say, and I just said that Ronna Jones, very good friend, who actually sang at my wedding. That's how good of a friend she is, and a wonderful performer. And she was the one who told us she's a friend of Eddie's and told me about what Eddie was doing. And Ronna worked very closely with Esther Williams. And when we were doing a fundraiser for our son, see, I'm going to get all emotional about this. When we were doing a fundraiser for my son way back when, there were so many people who were so generous, and Esther Williams was one of them. And I just loved her, just thought she was a wonderful performer and loved her movies, still love her movies. And it's just a shame. But what a wonderful, rich life she led, and I know that she was an incredible person. So our best wishes and rest in peace to Esther, and thanking her for all that she did for my son, because she helped us directly. So anyway, as I get all verklempt here. In any case, we're talking about play skills, and it's time for our play skill tip of the week. A couple of different things that I wanted to talk about. First of all, that everything is an opportunity, that every single moment is an opportunity. And I know I hear myself say a lot, and I hear you guys say a lot, but I just don't have time. I just don't have time to teach play skills. I wish I had more time to work on social skills with my child. I wish I had more language time, but we spend time in the car and we're commuting, and I have to, get them to this, and then I have to go to work, and then I'm come home and I'm cooking dinner and I'm doing the laundry, and I don't have time to teach these skills. And I just want to remind myself and all of you that no matter what we're doing, there are teaching opportunities, because we can take whatever we're doing and we can turn it into some form of play. My son used to watch, they make lovely videos on HBO that they take classical music and they make them into cartoons, and it's a great way to introduce our children, especially for those of you who are out there who your kids like Baby Einstein, maybe the next step up. They have this little baby that's in the video who goes in amongst all these orchestrations, and they're really cool cartoons, and my son loved them for many years before he outgrew them. And there was one video that had this lovely sort of jazzy kind of tune, and it was two hippos, the mama hippo and the baby hippo, hippo, and they make a pizza together and stick it in the oven, and they set the timer. And while the timer is going and the music is playing, they go and they do some laundry, and they mop the floor, and they straighten up the living room. And it was always the reminder to me, and they're having fun the whole time that they're doing it. As soon as the timer beeps, then they go in and they have the pizza. But it's this lovely bonding moment that the mom has with the baby hippo. And they got the housework done, and they prepared a meal. And in all that time, the child, and the mom makes it fun in each different thing that they do. It was always a reminder to me that I can be in the drudgery of my life. And believe me, I participate in that a lot. Or we can look at it and go, okay, how can I make this fun? How can I turn this into a game for me and for my child? And what are the learning opportunities that are here? Whether, it's just taking turns or, letting them splash in the water a little bit as we're washing the dishes, and being very clear about what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to teach. It might take longer to do the dishes, right? By 5 minutes to have your child help you, but you're teaching adaptive skills, and there's the opportunity to work on play skills while you're doing it, because, you're soaping the dish, and then at some point you pick up the bubbles and you blow them at them and you're getting a reaction. You're working on social interaction. You're working on communication. You're working about teaching your child to know when to stop, right? Because some of our kids are like, oh, well, great. We're playing with the bubbles. Now let's throw all the bubbles, right? So getting them to be able to know what the line is, and they're going to cross it. And that's what play is about, giving you that safe place where you go, okay, this is too much, this is too little, this is too much, but interacting. So think about what's going on in your day. I was making a joke the other day about the fact that I teach a lot of stuff in the car. And I don't take my son on a big, long commute, but we, on the way to the farmer's market and the way home from the grocery store, we're always doing things in the car. I know, and I am also guilty of letting my child fuzz out on his iPad or on my phone. But I try to sometimes say, no, this trip, we're not doing that, and save that for when I really need it, because they're strapped into the car. It's a great learning opportunity, great learning moment that we can take advantage of. So think about the kinds of things that you can teach in the car and get creative. We talked about imaginary play today. What are the things that we can imagine? My grandmother always used to, we'd drive in the car and she would say, look in the car next to us and see who's in there and make up a story about them. Now that's a much older kid skill. But, I can remember when we were little, that we would play I Spy, that we did this with my son. I spy something red, and then he would have to figure out what it was. Or even before that, when we were working on the colors, we would point out all the things that were red and label them, so that helped him with language and got him looking outside and noticing the world that was around him. I know it's frustrating sometimes because you feel like there's no reason to talk because they're not understanding anything, but if you keep talking, eventually it helps with their receptive language. You want to, keep repeating the same things over and over again so that they begin to get it. That if you say, ooh, look, the light is red, say that at every single light that you go to so they begin to understand, oh, it's what all these things have in common is that thing, that must be the light, and it must be red. Eventually it does start to connect. With our kids, it just takes longer. In any case, find all the opportunities to play. Take the drudgery. It'll make it more fun for you if we take the drudgery and turn it into play. Then you have a teaching opportunity. All right, that's our play tip for today. We're going to go now to the A Word. This is the amazing ongoing documentary being made here by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, as he begins his early intensive intervention of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. And we see that it's, he now has a baby sister, and there's a lot to learn, and he's starting to take his program out on the road. So take a look, because you don't just do this at home, you take it and go to different places. So take a look. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
That's so cool. Thanks, guys. years since he was diagnosed. And
10 months since he started ABA, and I don't think at the time we really understood that you can be happy, fun, and still have autism. We were at Disneyland trying new foods, and he's open-minded to it. Eating was a nightmare a year ago, and now it's not. Just in the last week, we've noticed like huge differences in what he was willing to try then versus what he's willing to try now.
You want to try a pear? Can you kiss it for a piece of cookie? You want to kiss it? Yeah. Come here.
Up to a few months ago, you show the kid a banana and he would go nuts. He ate it every day, but he didn't want to know that he was eating it. And a week ago, he asked for it.
just ate it. Now he asks for him every day, and he has a banana. I don't know what changed, but it just did.
So good. Oh, that's so good.
I wouldn't have even considered giving him a chewable vitamin 6 months ago. And I just hand it to him now and say he's got a chomp, and he knows that he has to crunch down on it.
Good job.
We're ecstatic about his development. I don't wake up every morning anymore thinking I have a child with autism. I just think I have two great kids.
What a great video. And you know what this brings home to me? Because I'm a very impatient person. I don't know about you guys, but I am a very impatient person. And you remember in the first part of the series, they'd bring out the banana and the child, and they showed you in the video, he just would flip. He would just flip. It was just aversive. And they went so slowly, right? And you heard the parents going, are we going to get to the food issues? Are we going to get to the food issues? When are we going to get to the food issues? And they were working on, they had the Melissa and Doug wood fruit that they had there, and they were doing all kinds of different things very slowly. You know, they'd bring a banana in and leave it in the room, and you'd think, well, when are they ever going to get around to what they're going to do? But that was what they were going to do, because slowly but surely the banana got a little bit closer to him over months, right? You go, months? It's going to take months for the child to be able to eat a banana, except that the day arrives when it's no longer an issue. It is not an issue anymore. So those months, so let's say it took 3 months for that to happen, and now it's fixed, done, kaput. They don't ever have to deal with that behavior again. And if you think about it, I mean, I can think of a couple of things with my son that I know I gotta start that slow path with that we just haven't. And every once in a while it comes up and it's like, right? But the truth of the matter is if I were to go in and plan and say, all right, we're just going to move this just a teeny tiny little bit every day, we will get to a day when this is not an issue anymore. And that's happened for so many things with my son. But it's just a reminder to me that slow and steady, right? Slow and steady, that desensitization. We just had Dr. Tarbox talking on Friday about teaching children to brush their teeth and doing it just so slow it feels like you're not moving. But look, you arrive. You arrive and he's there having a banana, and it's so exciting that dad is jumping up and down, and not even jumping up and down because he feels like he has to be reinforcing. It's that reinforcing to dad. And how exciting that that's just one piece of a bunch of other pieces that are starting to land. So dad says, this is not my first thought every morning now. We're starting to see things in other ways. And mom is saying, it didn't occur to me, but yeah, we can have the A word in our life and go and be happy and be at Disneyland and be, you know, one of the peeps just out there living our lives, having a child, not in fear of what's going to happen next. Slow and steady. It's amazing what can happen. And I really urge you to watch this whole series to see, because it isn't always happy, right? It's some tough work. This is why I get incensed when people say, oh, well, I don't think he really had autism. Excuse me? No. This child and this family have worked really hard. Or other people who say, oh, well, you know, he outgrew it. Oh, no. My Aunt Fanny, right? He did not outgrow it. This family has worked really, really hard. And that should give us all hope, because it means that it's possible for us to get there. But it involves some time, some patience, and some work and some diligence, and being with the right people and making sure that you're working with the right people. But This is why we fight for insurance reform. This is why we fight for the best level of ABA for these kinds of things. So check out the A Word. They have their own YouTube channel, and you can watch all the videos. You can pause them, rewind, fast forward. It's such a beneficial series. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Ashley Colas. Great stuff with Ashley. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest, Ashley Colas, is here with us for something we call Great Stuff with Ashley. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome. We're so thrilled to have you here today because you are the best shopper I know, and you have impeccable taste, and you work with our kids, so you put all those 3 things together, and you come up with great things for us to go. If we're going to spend our dollars, we want to spend them wisely.
Right, exactly.
And so what do you have for us today?
I have a couple of things.
Okay.
So we're coming up on summer,
yes.
And I get asked all the time about reading.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are always really interested in when their kids are going to read.
Yeah.
And then once they start to read, they're like, okay, when are they going to read something else? Because a lot of times there's a lot of repetition in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they will have favorite books that they want to read over and over.
Uh-huh.
And you might have gone through this stage where you're like, let's pick a different book for bedtime.
Yeah.
Because you've had it. But they're now with iPads.
Pull your hair back.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. There we go.
Now with iPads, we have interactive stories, and we have the availability of classics on our iPads, which are not as easy to find at the store because they're not as popular.
That's true, yeah.
So one of the apps that I've looked at recently, and it caught my eye because of 2 reasons, the price and the availability of those classics, is called Kids Story.
Oh, okay. I'm writing this down.
It's spelled kind of in an interesting way. It's
Okay.
Kidz.
Okay.
Tory. Kids Story.
Okay.
My computer crashed, so I had all this stuff to
Okay.
send to you, but I can send it later.
Okay, great.
And this company puts out classics, and they're 99 cents each. Things like Tortoise and the Hare, and The Emperor's New Clothes, and The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and The Ugly Duckling. And they're short, and they have really cool pictures to kind of liven them up. And they also have not a ton of interaction, but they do have interactive features that you can click and something happens.
I do love that.
Yes. And they're 99 cents each, so if your kid gets sick of it, it's only 99 cents. You can pick a new one.
Absolutely.
So these are for readers between ages about 2 and 5 to 6.
Okay, great.
And you also have the option when you open your app and say you're reading The Tortoise and the Hare, it will ask if you want it to be read to you or if you want to read it yourself.
Lovely.
Yeah, so that's for our kids who are just starting out with reading, they might want to read along, or if they're not readers, it's something they can do independently, an independent play activity. It's just listening to the book. And they can turn the
Very
pages.
cool. I love that, because sometimes you want to read it to them, sometimes they want to read it to themselves, and sometimes it would be great if you could give them a book and have them be sitting doing something beneficial where you are not having to be completely hands-on, like in the car, those kinds of things, and giving kids the ability. I think it's great when kids have the ability to steer what they want to do with an iPad and make those choices, and to, so that it helps them to figure out what their preferences are. I think that's a really cool thing.
And we talked recently about internet safety, and I know that I do a lot of filtering of things that I'm going to be giving to kids or exposing them to. So if I'm going to show them a new game or a new story, I want to know what's in it and what it's about. And because we know these stories, it's a little bit easier. We can kind of just browse through and make sure there aren't any scary pictures or something, and then we're good to go. Because we know the content, and that's the benefit of classics. There's also a free version of Velveteen Rabbit, I believe, in the iTunes or the iBooks store. And so I think those classics are great, and I like that they're available to us in a digital format now.
Well, you know what else I love too? I mean, as a former teacher, I love when we can give our kids stuff that they're going to be references to in life.
Right.
Do you know? I mean, so things like the Tortoise and the Hare it's going to come up. The Ugly Duckling is going to come up. Things like the Velveteen Rabbit.
The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Those are things that we teach later.
Absolutely.
Figures of speech that we use. Right. And they come from those stories and things that we learned.
So I think it lays groundwork. I love it when Jem can say so much of what we have in the entertainment industry now, whether they're watching a cartoon or something, references something else. Absolutely. And I love it that Jem, in the last couple of years, gets that. That he'll see something and he'll say, oh, they're, and I don't know what the word is that he used to use, but he would say, oh, they're stealing that from The Wizard of Oz. Or, oh, they're stealing that from something or other. Now he says, oh, they're referencing, which is great for our kids.
Absolutely.
To be able to put A and B together and come up with C.
Yeah, that's abstract. It's hard.
Yeah.
But I think it takes, and this is why teachers focus on reading so much, is because it takes exposure to a lot of things. And even as adults, we'll see references to certain books, or like for the movie The Great Gatsby is out. So that was one of my favorite books, and my brother was like, I never read that, and he just graduated high school. I'm like, how did they let you go without reading that? But that's important because, I was looking through some wedding stuff, and there was like Great Gatsby theme wedding. Right. Like you have to kind of understand what that book was about and the time period it was about to know what that means. So I think it's really important to have exposure to literature that way.
I'm reading right now. I've mentioned this before. We're reading through this summer all the Little House on the Prairie books, and somebody said, you have a boy. Why are you doing that? But there are so many references to things that come up in 4th grade and 5th grade, and we've learned so much reading them together because there's so much about food and where food comes from, and then as we're going to be driving back across the country, I plan on stopping places and talking about the prairie. He has no clear concept of what the prairie is, but he's learning about it. It really very helpful.
He's a California boy.
He is a California boy. I don't know how I have 2 California boys, because my husband was born and raised here.
Yeah. I also want to say that they have re-released the Nancy Drew and Sherlock Holmes as as iBooks and digitally. So that's a really cool. I remember I used to have the Nancy Drew series, and they were all in yellow and lined up in my bookshelf. And so seeing those available is something really cool and nostalgic also.
What about the one that's the brothers? I don't remember. It was like the boy version of the Nancy Drew? Did you know? The Hardy Boys.
Yeah, the Hardy Boys.
Thank goodness for Emily in my ear. The Hardy
I didn't
Boys.
read the boy one.
I didn't read those. I read Trixie Belden. I didn't read Nancy Drew. I read the Trixie Belden books because they were the cool thing in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. So
well, they were, they were the Nancy Drew of that generation.
Yeah, so it kind of like reinvents itself. Something else I wanted to mention that's really cool, and it does have to do with shopping, is that Barnes & Noble actually has a really cool summer reading program for 2013.
Cool.
So they have these lists of books.
I thought you were going to say for $2,000, and then I was
No,
not
for this
cool.
summer.
Not cool.
I think they do one every summer.
Yeah.
But in this economy, it's good to see things like this.
Yes.
So they have lists of books that you can read, and then you download a log on the internet, and you write what the title is and who you would recommend this story to, and a reason why. So if you're going to recommend it to your brother, because it was a book about dinosaurs and he likes dinosaurs, then you just write that. And you have to read 8 stories, and you bring it into your local Barnes & Noble, and they give you a free book.
Oh, cool.
Which I think is really cool.
That's a very cool thing.
It's basically, we talk all the time about generalized conditioning forces, and it's like a token system almost.
It is.
And then at the end, when you earn all your tokens, you get your free book. And I think it's a really good incentive, and it's free.
Yeah.
So if you have these books that haven't been read, or if you can swap with a classmate over summer, or a neighbor,
or the library,
or the library. Sometimes the libraries have new books. Like I know the library near my house hasn't had a lot of new books lately, unless they were donations.
Yeah.
But there are some libraries that are amazing. You can get lots of current things. So
there used to be, I don't know with this economy, but when Jem was very little, the libraries used to have a local program too.
They do.
With recommended reading for different age groups too. So I love that we're talking about reading, because summer's a great time for all of us to read. I'm picking out my beach read for the summer.
Yeah, I know. I have mine already. It's the stuff that I stopped reading while I was studying. Everything else throughout the year.
There you go.
But I think that this is a great program. The libraries have reading programs where you can do group reading. And I was browsing through the local libraries around here, and I saw all of them on there with a program or something you could participate in, and that's also free. And so that's a great thing that you can do, and library is a good place to spend your time in the summer, because it's cool, and it's air conditioned, and they have movies and computers and all that stuff. And then Scholastic, they have a summer reading program, and you do it with your class.
Okay.
And so the class that reads the most minutes gets to meet the author of Captain Underpants, which is cool.
Oh, how fun.
So if your class is into that, and that's a grade level thing, then that's
you can sign
right
up
up your alley. And they're like in this competition already, and you can see the who's logging minutes and whose class it is.
Wow.
And it has some self-management components to it, where the kids have to go in and log their own minutes and what they've read, just like with the Barnes & Noble program. So they're taking their own data basically, and they're in charge of making sure that they record it so they get credit.
Right.
So there's so many really cool things that are helping our kids to be more independent and making choices to learn and find out about new things.
And reading is just, what the whole thing, reading is fundamental, but reading is an adventure. And when we give a child the ability to read and to enjoy reading, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Because I was always taught that if you can read, you can do anything. You can learn anything, you can go anywhere, you can experience anything. And I know recently we were in that, you were talking earlier about how when you read, you want your child to read the next thing.
Yeah.
And Jem is a very good reader, but we wanted him to get to the point where he was reading a chapter book completely on his own. Like when a child takes a book and goes off and says, I'm going to read my book. And it just takes some time getting the right book.
It does. And that's okay.
And he did. I mean, he loves the Geronimo Stilton books. Now that has opened everything for him. Now he wants all these different chapter books. There's like the 39 clues books. There are 25 clues, and they come with a thing that you stick in your computer. And in fact, for his birthday, my niece just got him a book, a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Very cool.
So that, he reads and then he makes a choice, and then he turns to page 67 if he made one choice and 32 if he made the other choice.
Yeah, we had like the Goosebumps books and those books that had like alternative endings that you could pick.
See, we didn't have that when I was young.
Things that have been created that make reading more fun.
Yes.
And then put the reader more in charge of the outcome.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of apps that you can make your own books.
Yeah.
And you can email them to your friends, and you can put them into iBooks.
Amazing.
And so not only can we have young readers, but young authors too.
Amazing.
And we're talking like between 99 cents and I think most expensive in that genre would be about $3.99 that I've looked at. So you can have a bunch of activities for your child to do and exploring their vocabulary.
Yeah.
And, we're thinking about pretending and pretense and all those things. And those are really important skills.
Yeah.
And they're really important for social reasons as well. And a lot of times they can act out or play out like social problems or difficulties through writing or understand it more through reading.
Yeah, a really amazing thing. I've noticed that still, I thought it would be different. Jem's in 4th grade, about to go into 5th grade, and I am amazed still in 4th grade that they're allowed to bring a book to school because they get some reading time, free reading time in class, and it's still the super cool thing. What book did you bring? Or are you stuck reading one of the books in the class? That the kids are very excited when it's a status thing having a book. I'm glad. Because I know that there's a wonky period somewhere coming up where suddenly it's, are you a smart kid?
Well, when you're limited to that instead of an electronic, that becomes valuable. And we see that with our kids. Like certain activities that are not necessarily preferred, if we limit them, they are like, oh, okay, well, I really want to do that now because you've put limitations on it.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a kind of almost like a currency, like a coolness currency. But because that's limited and it's more valuable to all of those students, it becomes something that socially is more valuable as well because they're relating to each other socially in the classroom.
Isn't that amazing? And over books. We talked about anti-bully. Here's a great thing to do. Put the focus on the books. That's a great, great thing. Well, I love all these tips.
Cool.
And again, it was Kids Story, KIDZTORY.
Yes.
And those are the ones like the Tortoise and the Hare for like 99 cents.
Yeah, and then if you want to do the Barnes & Noble summer program, that's on their website, and I can send it to Emily, and you can download the packet, and it comes in English and Spanish.
Okay, fabulous. And that's the one where they read the books, then they get a free book. Fabulous. And Scholastic is doing the one where if the class does it together, then they can meet the author of Captain Underpants, which is pretty funny, I have to say.
It is. And he's a really great artist, and he's got a great personality, too, so I think it would be fun.
There you go. All right, so great stuff with Ashley. It really was great stuff with Ashley. We always appreciate it. We'll see you. We're not doing a show next Thursday, so we'll have to see if we can squeeze you in a different day.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back after these messages. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, where is he? What is he doing? Is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle, and without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay.
Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have not had the opportunity for a couple of days to check in with your answers to the question of the day. And today we asked you, how does your child, I want to get it exactly right, how does your child demonstrate imagination? And so I want to read some of the amazing things that you guys wrote in, because I don't know about you, but this just gives me hope for all of us. So somebody said, my daughter has sat in her high chair and turned around facing the back of it and used it for a harp. Okay, that is crazy imaginative. That's wonderful. Somebody else said, she pretends to be a rock star. It's very funny. My oldest child never acted like this, so it's pretty amazing to see my autistic child bust out a routine and show us all of her moves. Love it. Another person who says, my son creates his own fantasy Dungeon and Dragon type computer games. Love that. Someone else says that their child is great at imaginative play. She is pretty rigid when it comes to cooperative play. Well, those are all things that get worked on, right? But the truth of the matter is that when you see neurotypical children play, especially the girls, totally neurotypical, and one of the reasons why they tell all of us who have boys to find play dates when our kids are little with girls, because the girls are rigid. They're like, no, we're going to play this way, and they're incredibly bossy. These are neurotypical girls, and they go, this is how we're playing it. You're going to stand here, you're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it. And they don't want to change it, right? And that's completely neurotypical. So give it time. Give it time, and if it's okay if they don't love to do the cooperative play. They're going to fit right in with all the other girls on the playground. Another person who says, my son has his cars talk to each other and act out scenes from the movie Cars, always with different endings he makes up, though. I love it. That's fabulous. Somebody else is by drawing lines and circles. You see, the creativity comes in different ways, but it's all exciting. I knew that my son, here's a measure of how creative our kids get. All the other parents were going, oh no, you know, she drew on the wall, or I have one friend that her daughter is, they call her Susie Q. And so she went around the house with a red indelible marker and put Q's all over at chair height, all over the house. And they had to rearrange the furniture until they could repaint. And I said, my son, you know, that never occurs to him to draw on the wall. And then, of course, we worked on imaginative play and being creative. And all of a sudden, I had a little face of a monster on the wall. It was a sign that we were getting closer. And then we had to talk about that we don't draw on the walls, but it hadn't occurred to him before to draw on the wall. So it's a lovely thing. They see a canvas. It's a form of imagination. Somebody else says he has set up his own Disneyland and California adventure in his room using toys and other items around the house to represent some of the rides and attractions. Also through clay, he likes to create characters out of Sculpey clay. Love it. Just absolutely love it. Another mom says, my son plays through his imagination and shows a line of branches that represents trees. I ask how his day at school was, and his answer is, Mommy, is that big truck going to touch that tree branch? That's hilarious. Another person says, I believe my son's imagination may come true in his real life, to work for a railroad as an engineer. And I love this one. Today he blew up a yellow balloon and drew a face and stripes on it and said that it was a bee and he wanted me to chase him with it. Fabulous. That's imaginative. We're loving that. Okay, I want to go, because I know that there was one on the other site as well. Here we go. I love it when you guys write in, because there's so much to share and you give other people hope. Another person who said playing with different things as if they were the characters of her shows. Absolutely love it. I see that we got a message from somebody that met the ladies at Surfers Healing and how amazing it was. Just love it. Okay. So I encourage you guys, keep writing in, because even if we don't cover it here on the show, other people see what you write and it's inspirational. And it's okay to write in and say, we're not there. We're not seeing the imagination. And it's okay to say, and I'm frustrated, or I'm concerned, or I'm worried, or I'm terrified, right? Because when you write things like that in, sometimes somebody has some words of wisdom to say, yeah, no, we were right there. Here's what we did. It changed. It's okay. Keep breathing. I was at a parent interaction meeting. It was probably a year ago, and not a lot of parents got to turn out for it, but at one point we were sitting around and we were being asked what would be helpful for parents. And one mom was talking and she said, I don't even know what I need. I don't even know what I need, but I feel like I need to have some place where I can call somebody from time to time if I have a question. I just want to know that there's somebody that I can talk to. And I turned to her and I said, yes, you just need for one of us that's a little further along the line to say, you are going to survive this. And she reached out and she took my hand and she said, that's exactly what I needed. I'm so glad I came, because that's exactly what I needed to hear, that I'm going to survive this, because there are days and times when I'm not sure that I'm going to. And I said, oh my gosh, there were so many days that I didn't know if I was going to survive it. But people further along turned to me and said, Shannon, you're going to survive this. And then I would go, okay. All right. They survived it. They've looked at me. They know I don't have it together. They know that I can survive this. I'm going to defer to them for this. And I'm thrilled that now I get to be one of the people that turns and says to somebody else, you know what? You're going to survive this. And when you talk to other people on Facebook, you can be one of those people, either saying, I need somebody to tell me that I'm going to survive this, or you can be one of the people who says, it's okay, you are going to survive this. But either way, I always say here, we hold hands. We get through this all together, right? Okay, we are going to take a break and come back with more Autism Live, so stick with us.
Hi, Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son, Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot. You might know that Home Depot is famous for giving free classes to adults on lots of things like tiling and other home crafts. Well, they also have free classes for kids as well. It's called the Kids Workshop. We love doing that, don't we, Jem?
Yeah.
It's cool. So come on inside with us and let's do a craft.
Yay.
The Kids Workshop is a program that's been around with Home Depot almost since we've been a company, and it's been developed to allow kids in the community to come in and give them an opportunity to build something, to be able to create something and be able to take just simple wood pieces and put them together with nails and hammers and screwdrivers and then paint them.
So you do this every first Saturday of the month.
Any Home Depot that you go to on the first Saturday of every month between 9 and 12, you can join different associates throughout different stores and build these projects with these kids.
And do they have to do anything beforehand, or can they just show up on that Saturday?
All they need to do is show up. We have all the tools, all the materials that the kids will need. We have aprons that we give to the kids that they can take home and maintain their pins. They get pins on a regular basis for completing projects. With that, they can keep track of how many projects they've done. And
it's all free.
It's all absolutely free, all
Which is
provided.
wonderful. And Wilson, I have to say, you know, you guys devised this for all kids to be able to do this.
Correct.
What I particularly love about it as an autism mom, it gives my child a place to come and learn a new skill, to socialize with kids of all kinds.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. Home Depot is definitely loves to be involved with the community and bring the community in to work with us. That's what we love to do.
Hi there. I'm just writing back to somebody who wrote in and told us that her son in the 9th grade is in drama, and they just did the play The Beauty and the Beast. And not only did he play the part of Gaston, but he was also the Beast, and he did an incredible job, and everyone knew everyone else's lines too. Because you know what? That's our kids. Our kids will learn not only their lines, but they'll learn everybody else's lines too. How amazing is that? Gaston and the Beast. So pretty much he was everything. I love that. I think that's incredible. So I'm just writing back a woohoo to her because that's amazing. Okay, I wanted to bring a couple of things up here. And the first one is, you know, we've had Gabriella Tessier on the show before. It's been a while though. And for those of you who don't remember, Gabriella, she is one of the anchors for Univision. She's an award-winning broadcast journalist, and she is an autism mom. She's an extraordinary autism mom. She's on the board of Act Today, and she and her husband give back in big and huge ways. Her husband is a very well-known restaurateur. So in any case, Gabriella has agreed to and is competing in a salsa festival. It's the Oxnard Salsa Festival, known as the Dancing with Our Community Stars. So it's just like Dancing with the Stars, but it's within the Oxnard community here in California. And it is this star-studded event, and basically just like Dancing with the Stars, they get someone who is involved with a charity, and they train just like Dancing with the Stars, and they give them a professional dancer who dances with them, and they compete just like Dancing on the Stars. Now, the thing about it is, though, is the entire thing for this is a fundraiser for the different charities that the people are representing. So Gabriella is representing Act Today. So if she wins, then a great deal of money will go to Act Today. This is really super duper important, and Gabriella is donating so much of her time. So we really want to support, and if you know anyone who is Spanish speaking, you really, even if you're not, you should tune in and watch Gabriella, because I make absolutely no bones about the fact that I'm not a great host, right? I'm here, I'm holding the chair down, I'm doing whatever. But Gabriella is the consummate professional. She's stunningly beautiful. I've never seen such white teeth on someone in my entire life. And she's amazing, absolutely amazing. You should tune in. She does the morning edition of Univision. And out here in California, that's station 34 KMEX TV. And it is in Spanish. And she's been there for 8 years. So in any case, and interviewed some amazing people. Nobel Peace Prize winner Simone Perez. She's interviewed President Barack Obama, Maria Shriver, and the former president of El Salvador, Antonio Saca. And received an Emmy for excellence in journalism and 5 nominations for producing and hosting, along with 7 Golden Mike Awards. Okay, so she's the real deal. But of course, she is also on the board of Act Today, and as I mentioned, an autism mom. So here's the thing. If you vote for her, it's a donation, and each dollar equals 1 vote. So I really want to encourage you to support Gabriella. And it is the Oxnard Salsa Festival. I hope they're going to give me a site on here. I asked them to give me all the information so I could tell you to vote for her. But her name is Gabriella Tessier, Teissier. But I am not seeing a website here, Emily. They did not give me a website. In any case, if you Google, I'll get it for you. And you know what? We'll put it up on the Facebook so that you can just click it. It goes until the final... The final festival is on Sunday, July 28th at 1 p.m. But you understand that all of this work has to be done beforehand with the voting. And it's not going to be about who danced the best. It's going to be about who raised the most money, who had the most votes. So we want to support Gabriella, and we want to support Act Today, and I hope that you guys will too, because remember that Act Today gives grants for what parents ask for. It would be all too easy to just give out a grant and just make it one size fits all, but I love the fact that Act Today says, what do you need? What do you need? Write in and tell us what your need is, and if there's a waiting list because there's never enough funds, right? They've given away over $1 million, but there's never enough funds. But this is a great way to raise more money and support an autism parent at the same time. So the Oxnard Salsa Festival will get the actual link up on our Facebook so that you can just hit it. And please donate $1. If all of our viewers each donated $1, Gabriella would win. And we want Gabriella to win. We were competitive, right? I'm sure there are other wonderful charities, but Gabriella is donating a great deal of time, and our kids need it. So there you go. We'll be the loudest voice. How's that? All right. We're going to take another break and come back to finish out the show. I might have a special guest. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to make it, but I might have a special guest. We'll have to see. So stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides programs to educate students, parents, and professionals proven techniques using applied behavior analysis. Access online video lessons with IBT eLearning. Get one-on-one personalized instruction with IBT face-to-face training. Acquire professional guidance with IBT BCBA supervision. Develop professional growth with IBT continuing education courses. Get access to IBT services today. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So we started out the show today, and I gave you a programming note to remind you that next week we're here for 4 shows. We're not doing a show on Thursday, but every other day next week we will be here, and then we'll be taking some time off. It's going to be at least a week and a half, if not 2 weeks, before we are back, taking our little hiatus here at Autism Live. So just want to remind you of that, although you will still be able to write in and keep questions coming. We won't be live on the show. There may be some new programming that is featured on the YouTube page, so keep checking that out. And a lot of really exciting stuff that's going to be done while I personally am away, because the period of time that I'm away is the exact period of time that they're doing the Cox Communication Inclusion Camp, film camp for the military families in San Diego. And we heard from Nancy yesterday that there is the possibility that there might be 1 or 2 spots that they could squeeze somebody into. So if you know somebody who's a military family that has access to San Diego for those 2 weeks at the end of June, mid to end of June, it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. We had Joey Travolta with us last week. Oh my goodness, isn't he dishy? And the real deal, I was talking with Nancy after the show yesterday, and she said, Shannon, you've got to come down and see Joey work with these kids. It's just amazing. And she's not the only one that I've heard that from. I've heard that from so many people, that he has this innate ability to draw out from the children what their talents, you know how so many times you guys write it in when we have Temple Grandin on, Temple says, you know, it's so important to find what your child is interested, what their passion is, and feed that passion. And I'm like a lot of you, you know, it's not always evident. How do I find what my child's absolute passion is and what's just a passing phase, right? How do we feed it? And Joey apparently is just particularly gifted in that area as well as other areas, that he draws it right out of our kids and says, okay, so here's what you want, here's what we're going to set you to work on, and they blossom under his tutelage. So that is, and Cox Communications supporting all that, it's at their facilities, and Joey's Camp Inclusion Films will be leading the way. And not only do the kids, and again, they are military children who have parents, one or more parent that is serving in the military, but it also includes their siblings who are not on the spectrum, which one of the things Joey was talking about when he was here the last time was about how when the siblings, everybody goes to lunch and there's this social time and the siblings get to sit together and converse and they don't have to explain. They already have a similar basis to start from, so that it shores them up and gives them self-esteem and shows them, see, I can survive this too. So that is going on during the 2-week period that I'm away. But our film crew, Emily and Suzanne, are going to be going down and getting some film on that, and also checking out some other things. So you may see some new video clips go up on the YouTube page while we are not live, just cluing you into that there will be stuff happening even though I will not be here. Also, some of the things that we want to talk about here are, as we gear up into the summer, if you haven't already, if you're a last-minute Lulu like I am, if you haven't already, making sure that you have a plan for the summer. Now, this is the hardest thing, but just like the banana that we were just talking about with Jack Riley, if we set something in motion, even if it's something small, we will accomplish something. So I know that tomorrow and Saturday, I am taking some time to sit down and come up with a plan. And I was reminded yesterday by Dr. Doreen Grampachet how fabulous a visual schedule is for all of us. For all of us. You know, we recently put up a big calendar on the wall that has all of the months in the year, all the days and the months in the year, so that we could be writing down all of the guests that we have in different days so that we can see ahead and see. And it's made a real difference for me in knowing that I like to have it on the computer as well so that I can check my phone, but being able to look at it on the wall and see, oh, you know, we're short for people in the 3rd week of July of guests. You know, it just really, being able to look at it in that format, big and huge, is quite lovely. So one of the things on my agenda this weekend is to make a visual schedule for myself, but to make a visual schedule for my son. And I hope that you guys will participate with me, and maybe we can show each other pictures of what we're creating. And I especially love the idea of having it be interchangeable. Dr. Grampachet talked about the Velcro that, you know, we did this with the bedtime pass and with our token economy for school, that we made one here, gave you the template and showed you how you can stick little Velcro dots onto it so that the child can pick the thing that they want to work for. We can do the same thing with the visual schedule, that we can take pictures of like 8 different activities and say, here are the activities, you fit them into the schedule so that the child gets to pick what they do at 8:15. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'm very motivated to do that, because otherwise we get into a situation where there is no structure. Our children are more prone to feel bored and then to act out because they don't know what's happening next. I was in a conversation with somebody recently where they were talking about kids who don't have autism. We were talking about teenagers who are completely neurotypical, but if they don't have enough structure in their lives, if it's at school, if it's at home, wherever, when they don't have enough structure, they crave it so badly that they will find a way to have structure, as in they will misbehave in order to be punished to create structure. And that there are some recent studies that have been done on prisons that show that there are people who will misbehave to the point where they get locked up in jail because they are craving structure that much. Now, if we dial back from that and say, okay, our kids with autism, is it possible that they do better with structure and then it means that they don't have to act out as much, we don't have as much challenging behavior? Isn't that a great experiment that you would like to do over the summer to see, okay, if I were to make a visual schedule, it might take you an hour and a half to make a visual schedule to put it all together, but if that hour and a half saved you 10 minutes every day, and if it helped you to create progress for your child, would that hour and a half be well spent? This is where I'm at, because I gotta map out where that hour and a half is, but I'm excited about it. I think it's going to make a true, really big difference. So I encourage you to come up with a plan. And I think it's different for everybody how you like the plan. It might just be that you buy a calendar, that, you know, one of those planners that's fairly big so you can write things in, right? And that you open it up and do that. What I used to do when I couldn't afford a planner, because I couldn't afford a planner for a lot of the days that we were in autism intensive land. I would find they have free templates online and you can print it out. And I would write down in it what we were going to do on what days. But make sure that you have something that visually, you can do it on Outlook if you work better with that on your devices. But make sure you have something that you can look at that represents, okay, this is what we're doing, and that you can look at least a week at a time, so that you can say, all right, next week is when, you know, we're going to hit social skills next week. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to target social skills. And so if I was going to target social skills, what kind of a thing would I do? And that way, when you go to the grocery store and you say, all right, I'm at the grocery store, I know what I'm working on at the grocery store today. Aside from getting the groceries, we're going to work on social skills. So maybe it's talking to the person who is doing the cashier. And don't be afraid, by the way, to get them in cahoots with you. Whether it's that you have to go up to the person ahead of time and say, in a minute, we're going to go through the line, and I would like you to ask my child 3 questions. I can't tell you how many times I've said to people, I'm sorry, can you ask him that again? Because I need for him, he didn't answer you the first time, so let's try it again. And they're all too happy. They're like, because they're bored. They're ringing things up or whatever. They're like, what? Huh? Sure. No. You want me to ask it again? Absolutely. Glad to help. Don't be afraid to ask people to do things again. Get a plan. Get a plan and get it visual. It will help you and it will help your child. All right. We're going to take one more break. I don't think my guest is going to make it. I was hoping to have my 5-year-old grandniece here before we get to the end of the show, but I don't think she's going to make it. But we're going to take one more break and really come to finish out the show. Stick with us.
Welcome back. For the month of June, I figured we'd do some cool things that are kind of like summer camp activities. So the activity we're doing this month is making a shoebox guitar. The materials you'll be needing are an old shoebox, a paper towel roll, a pencil, a stencil, rubber bands, a crayon, and an X-Acto blade, which only the adults will be using. So first things first, I have a shoebox and I painted it just so it's a little bit more interesting. This is an opportunity for your kids to decorate however they choose. They can keep it simple or do some stripes with paint, or you can always use, stickers or tape instead of paint to decorate it. All right, now that I have this, I'm gonna take my stencil, place it on top of the shoebox, and I'm gonna draw a circle somewhere in the center, okay? So now that I have that, I'm gonna take my X-Acto blade, which is why this is for the adults, and cut out the circle. Next, we're going to cut out a smaller circle at the top of our shoebox guitar. The reason we're going to do this is so that we have a place to insert our paper towel roll, aka the stem of the guitar. And I'm going to grab my paper towel roll and I'm going to trace the outside of this so I can cut a hole on the top of this too to stick this in so it just looks a lot more realistic. It won't be usable, but it'll look pretty cool. Now that it's been traced, now I'm going to cut it out with the X-Acto blade. And again, this is something that only the adults should be doing. Now that I have both of the holes cut in this, I'm going to take my guitar strings and place them on. As you can see, it's missing one thing. It's stem. So now I'm going to put this in the hole we just cut out. Alright, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my crayon and put this in. And then after that, your guitar is totally done and you're ready to rock out with your kids. And if you're really cool, you'll make another one so you and your child can play together while doing socio-dramatic play, or work on imitation skills where You play a pattern on here and then they try to repeat it. I hope you and your child had lots of fun making this. And until next time, rock on.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here at the end of a Thursday show, and I want to remind you that Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski will be with us tomorrow for our Friday show. We're talking about play skills with both of them, and I have asked Dr. Nadowski if she will break down all the different types of play and how we teach them. So, going from that functional pretend play to the imaginary play to the symbolic play to the imaginary play to the sociodramatic play, and how we teach those individual things. Because I think, first of all, it's important to understand the difference between them and to see and recognize when a child is engaged in that kind of play. But then beyond that, how do we teach it? How do we teach it? Because it's one thing to understand what it is. It's another thing to build the skills so that your child then generalizes it and does it without prompting and does it in new and novel situations. That's what we're all getting towards. But play is so super duper important when you think about your entire life. And, hopefully you are working at a job that is reinforcing to you in some way, if only for the paycheck, right? That's a big reality in people's lives. But imagine if you were to do the job that you least like and there was no paycheck that came for it, right? How dull your world would become and how prone to depression and anxiety you would become. We want to make sure that we help our children to develop skills that take them through their whole life and for them to feel joy through their whole life. None of us wants to spend our whole life working to help our children so that they can be a drone, right? That they're just a worker bee who never feels joy. If that were the case, Disneyland wouldn't exist, right? I was at Disneyland the other day, so I have Disneyland on the brain. But to see families and see them interacting with their children, and most of the time it's the happiest place on earth. Although, there is that witching hour at Disneyland that's right around 3:30 in the afternoon when you're walking by and you hear discussions that are happening in different families and you see completely neurotypical kids beating on each other and the mothers being horrified and going, "What's happening?" It's because it's 3:30 at Disneyland and everyone's tired at 3:30 at Disneyland if you've been there since the morning. There was one family that I walked by and it was a trail of kids, right, with mom and dad's pushing the stroller behind, and the littlest of the boys, he stopped because he saw something very exciting at Disneyland, and they all sort of piled into each other and kind of went up his heel, and the older brother was ticked. He was just totally ticked about the fact that he'd run into his little brother, and it was embarrassing to him, and he stumbled a little bit. And dad even said to the little boy, "Don't stop," because it's not like you're seeing anything amazing here, right? But everybody's a little cranky at 3:30. And so then the oldest boy then kicked the youngest boy because he made him embarrassed. And then it was just mayhem. It was all but a fist fight amongst this poor little, very, typical family. And the mom was like, "What just happened?" But it was happening all over the park. In any case, I digress. But it's important for our kids to have play, to be able to go to someplace like Disneyland and to be able to deal with all the feelings that come up when you're playing and to get exhausted as well, but to have that skill set of play so that when they grow up, you just heard Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson yesterday saying to me that I'm not playing enough, and I'm not playing enough on my own, that all my play has to do with my child. I see that we have a guest. Do we have time, Emily? Okay, so go ahead. My little grandniece is here. Come on in. We have to introduce her. She's my helper with play. So come on in here, Miss. 2 minutes. Come on around here so that you can be on the camera. You are talking to people all over the world right now. Do you want to come and see me?
I didn't want to.
Oh, you said you didn't want to? See, this is neurotypical 5. Do you want to at least come and be on the camera? You can look at your picture on the screen with Aunt Shannon. You don't want to? You don't want to see how pretty you look? See, neurotypical 5. It isn't just us. You don't want to participate at all? You don't want everybody to see your pretty hairdo? Do you want to talk about Disneyland?
No.
No, you don't want to. All right. Well, then I'm going to finish out the show and say, it's okay. It's totally okay. You don't even want to be once. They think I'm talking to the wall. Do you want to come see so that they can see that I'm actually talking to a person? No? It's all right. She doesn't want to. And now we have a studio full of people. Do you want to come on camera and say hello? No.
Hey, baby, can you come with me?
All right. In any case, we're going to finish up the show. We just have a minute left here. Emily's going to cycle through and remind all of you how you can get a hold of us here at the studio. And I'm going to remind you that we're here tomorrow with Dr. Adele Nadowski talking about play skills, and Dr. Jonathan Tarbox will be here talking about research. All of that and more tomorrow's show. And then we will be back on Monday. I hope that you will take the opportunity to tell us the kinds of things. We're in a big planning phase right now to plan out the rest of the summer and into the fall. So I hope you'll take the opportunity to tell us what kinds of topics you're interested in. On my list of things right now are a show about siblings, a show for older parents and dealing with some of the things that we have to deal with older parents, and then a lot of stuff on biomedical treatment. So if there's something beyond those things that you guys would really like to be talking about, I'd really love to know. So write in and tell us. I thank you for allowing me to spend this time with you, and I want you to know how much I appreciate this time that we have together. So we'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me and tune in to see what we have coming up. Bye-bye for now.